Can I ask Michael something, or do we not have enough?
Hey everybody, welcome to our belated and beloved show, Google Plus Week. Hey, good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week, and if there's an issue with any of the shares, if there are any shares, I'm not sure yet. There was an error in the first video URL, mixed up the test and the live stream. So I've fixed it. I think we'll find out. We have 5 peak concurrent viewers at start, so that's something. Okay, anyway, welcome to Google Plus Week, as I said, and let's introduce our panel here. We have Sheila and Pam are muted, and I can't screen share. We have Mr. Michael Banks. Welcome, Michael Banks. How are you, sir?
What's up?
Now, how did the Masters do without Tiger? Because I swear to God, I didn't follow it at all. I have no idea who won. And if he's in it, I would have been on it like crazy.
So Bubba Watson won. I expected there to be a shortage of people, or something just didn't feel right about Masters without Tiger there, but it didn't. I mean, things went on as normal. I mean, he didn't. When you don't have Tiger, doing something illegal where everyone gets a big uproar like it was last year when he made the error. But I mean, none of that this year. So I mean, it went pretty smoothly. It was a normal Masters.
Is he ever going to get his game back, literally and figuratively? Because he came out like a roaring out of the tunnel, and then he switched his swing, and then he had the issue with his ex. Is he ever going to get? Because I for one so want him to beat all the records, because I remember young Tiger, like his first Masters, when he got the lowest score at Augusta in the history of the course. He got the widest gap between anybody else. He was the youngest player ever to win. I mean, it was just like 5 or 6 different records at that course and for that tournament. Are we ever going to see him get his game again, and the Tiger that we fell in love with return? Because I so long for that.
I mean, who knows? Anything's possible. I mean, I wouldn't count him out, but I mean, you got to prove it. I know. We'll see.
Okay. I see you're all decked out with your sports stuff going on.
Actually, one of the things I got this year was a hat from the Masters.
Oh man, that's got Craig Ship written all over it. Craig is jealous. Craig is gonna steal your hat. That is totally Craig Ship hat territory. So you better watch it. If all of a sudden Craig has an interest in visiting you for some reason, you better lock up your hat, because that's what he's after.
Oh yeah.
100%.
It's probably too big. Probably won't fit me.
It's actually one size fit all.
Oh, really?
Of course, Michael Banks, the 7'2" guy, says that, right? Cadeas Kalut in Newport Beach, California. Welcome, sir. Good to have you with us as always. I see you got your glass on.
No, just my glasses.
Is it you got prescription ones now?
Yep, we'll call it that.
I was gonna say nice glass. All right, you got the whole style and look on. A star of Japanese screen and stage. Joining us from Utah is Mr. Harold Carey Jr. You got to put the Jr. in there so you don't mistake him for a dead guy, right? Welcome, Harold. Always a pleasure, sir.
Yeah, welcome. I'm just back from Navajo land. Just got back here.
Were you doing some video stuff today, or pictures, or what were you doing?
I was working with the principals of all the high schools, helping them improve their grades and stuff up there. And so we took a tour of all the Navajo Mountain Valley High School, and Navajo Mountain High School.
Awesome, good for you. And Craig Ship joins us from Frederick, Maryland, or thereabouts. Welcome, Craig Ship.
Hello, good to be here.
And then let's go to real quick, Sheila. Welcome, Sheila.
Hi.
You're back. You're on the phone.
Yeah, that was my son, thinking he's coming home for Mother's Day. He's not.
All right. And Pam Adger joins us from Menifee, California. Welcome, Pam. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, despite the spanking I received from you today.
It was fun for me.
As always, because you are, of course, skilled at that. Also, my co-host, my other co-host, Pam is one, and my other co-host is Alan Furstenberg in New York. Welcome, Alan.
Hey, Dan.
He's calm now, but wait, folks, it'll get crazy.
I'm always calm.
It's controlled anger, which is technically calm, right? If you think about it like that. Okay, so our first story tonight is this video is a classic example thus far of the Wadsworth constant. If you Google that, you will laugh in about a minute when you figure out what I'm saying, if you don't know what it is. All right, so let's talk about a Classroom, which is a new app by Google, and I think we want to get Harold to explain this to us and tell us that anecdote you were saying before we went live about test scores or grades in general, that sort of thing, and tell us about this app.
Why don't you explain what this app is first?
I have no idea what it is. That's why I'm asking Harold if he could explain this to us.
Yeah, well, the new Google app, to go with what you're familiar with, it's basically a Google page, like my page, Navajo People. And what it is, it's a page for the classroom. And so what the teacher does is, and when they started off, she enrolls all the students in the classroom, and they become, and also the students have a code, and so she doesn't have to enroll them. She just puts this code up on the website, and they type in this code, and they're automatically enrolled in the classroom. So once you have all these students in the classroom, she puts up an assignments page, and an assignments page tells them everything they have to do, and as soon as they create an assignment for that thing, when they start working on that assignment, it automatically creates a folder for every single assignment for all the students. And on those assignments, you can have quizzes and stuff like this, and she can watch you she can watch the whole class and help them do this simultaneously while they're doing it. She can watch everything you're doing, and you know how because all the documents are automatically shared with the teacher, all these assignments. And so she can go in there and help you, and like that. And then also, you have the ability. Everything gets stored on Google Drive, so you're using that. And the nicest thing about Google Drive now is you have no advertisements anymore on Google Search and Drive. If you use this Google Apps for Education, there's no advertisements there. So it's very secure. This is one of the things they stress, that it's very secure for the students, and they don't, and then just using the regular Google applications.
I don't know if you addressed this, Harold, but is there a cost associated with this, or is this a free thing?
It's totally free. Yeah.
Can others use it, or do you have to be associated with a school?
Yeah, that's one of the things that the way it's set up is you have to be associated with some kind of educational institution to sign up. It's going to be available to anybody who has Google Apps for Education. And to get Google Apps starting in September, everybody who has Google Apps for Education will get this automatically. Right now, you have to apply for a beta until September. So you can put your name in there and get a beta. But even for the beta, you have to put down an email address that has an EDU in it, or you have to say that you're an educational organization, and you have to kind of prove it to them if you don't have an EDU address.
Okay, so it's, yeah, we went through this before when I was at Randolph-Macon Academy, and we wanted to get an EDU. You had to prove, who you were at that point, and it was all network solutions then. So okay, so this is a good. Sounds like great potential here, and it's all part of Google's foray to get into that classroom, which
right.
Apple commanded for many years.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about last week. Is that they're just really just doing a fantastic job of it. What's really cool about this is, you know how your stream is. Well, you basically, just like you have a if you have a stream of your own page, you know, when you go to your page, you can see everything. Well, this is the way the class works. So everybody can post to that classroom, which is just like a Google page, and watch the stream. So everybody can help each other and share articles and stuff in the stream of the classroom.
That's cool.
Okay. That's awesome. Any other comments on this?
No, I think it's a good idea, especially for students who need extra help and their peers can help them or their teachers can help them. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, the biggest advantage is what it is. It costs so much for a learning management system. They charge like huge amounts of dollars. And what this does is it actually is an LMS where the teacher can track all the students, and it keeps track of their grades. You can grade all the students, and all the grades are in one place. She can grade all their papers, and you have Google Forms for the quizzes and stuff. And so it saves tremendous amounts of monies for the schools in having a complete learning management system.
Especially when she can see whether you've done the homework or not.
Yeah, she sees all your grades are in one place. It's basically like a grade book. It's not only this, but you also have a grade book associated with this.
Do they have anything like this that's available for regular Google Apps users, not EDU?
Well, it's not even available to anybody till September. So obviously not.
Gotcha.
It's obviously
Craig,
innovative. Go ahead, Alan.
Craig, what aspects of this would you find interesting as a non-EDU person, I guess is the question.
Well, I mean, I can think of like using it for Salesforce, for training them and other related things. I mean, I can think of uses right off the top of my head that we would use it for with our group.
And how much would you be willing to pay for it?
How much would I be willing to pay? Free would be nice.
That's not what I said. I said how much would you be willing to pay?
Not a lot, but probably something.
Yeah, but I know how much Salesforce costs.
Salesforce is
You mean the website?
big money, and
Salesforce.com?
it's big money, and it's a big setup fee, plus an ongoing expense. I forget how much, like $35 or $50 a person, plus like $1,000 setup fee, and that's if you're a very simple business. Salesforce is expensive, but they're the industry leader. But I could see someone wanting to start, like, for example, any kind of educational thing, a private tutorial thing. We have friends who do courses through Hangouts, etc. They might want to do their own thing and use this. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could adapt it. I'm surprised that they don't just make it wide open. Why they would limit it? Because
well, they don't want to lose their money for the ads. The whole purpose of this is exactly what Apple did, is to capture the educational market, and then once they get out, they can make money off these people that are hooked on Google with their ads. And so,
well, but I mean, they could have a version for the rest of us that has ads in it, right? I wouldn't mind ads being in mine, right? So,
well, here's the thing. You know, there's nothing saying that they won't eventually roll it out, you know, broader. But right now, they are getting the press by focusing on education. They are demonstrating their commitment to education, which is something that everyone, you know, that is in question in a lot of ways. They're showing their faith with the educational community, which had been in question in a lot of ways. So, and as Harold noted a couple of times, not even everyone in the educational community can get it yet. So until they roll it out to them, deploy it widely, actually see what, you know, how well it works in this relatively narrow space, then maybe they'll open it up and say, okay, who else has a need for this? And sell it to them.
And I actually see this used more for like developing countries more than us. And I think even if it catches on here, I think it'll be mainly used maybe in the elementary pre-K level? Because I don't in college right now. I don't see any college using this.
Really?
I don't know if it's for credibility or because they're heavily already in bed with like Microsoft and these other custom LMSs that they already use.
Yeah, but so many of those LMSs are really despised.
Yeah, I despise mine now.
And,
But I mean, but we still use it and stick with it.
yeah, but if Google presents a credible alternative, Google presented a credible alternative with email, and more the colleges are switching over to Gmail instead of doing it in-house.
And I have no clue why mine doesn't, but I mean, I know a lot that does not.
And I'm not saying that everyone is going to jump on board with it immediately, and in some ways that's a good thing. But I think, as it rolls out and expands and gets used more, more and more higher level education sources are also going to look at it and say, hey, this isn't so bad, particularly since it'll be free compared to something like Blackboard, which is,
Which
raking
I
in
still
the bucks.
freaking use. That I freaking use still. Can't stand.
No, nobody likes Blackboard, but it was the only one there, and they're making a metric fortune with it. And Google has the definite potential to step in and say, hey, we have a credible alternative to Blackboard. Now, I don't think they've got a credible alternative to Blackboard yet. This is a very, very small piece of what Blackboard, claims to do. But when you take this, if they ever roll out real improvements to communities, if they ever roll out some real improvements to a number of other things, then this will present a credible alternative. And I think if they do that, they'll Blackboard will be hurting. But we had to address Craig. This is the very, very first, very small step, and honestly, it's a fairly small step, but it's been done by the team that knows education. Drive is just incredibly well accepted in the schools right now, on all levels. The Chromebooks are incredibly well accepted on all levels, so I think this is. Done by the right team. Yeah, I'm dubious whether they get it right because I'm dubious about anything these guys do these days, but there's a chance, I think.
That's interesting because this is at this level, it's dabbling. It's almost like a Google, not quite, but almost like a 20% project. So you're saying if they get serious about it, they could really have some game. But Blackboard and for nonprofit schools, Blackbaud are more full-featured applications that are sort of like the old commercial where Meta, we make great copiers, right? So that's all they do. Whereas Google, this is silent. You're saying that they could really make an inroad if they get serious about it. But and they also have a good reputation. I mean, the Gmail's free, like you said. People are switching to it. I'm surprised that I wasn't aware that schools were widely adopting Drive.
Yeah, Drive is incredibly well accepted in schools these days. Again, partly for this reason that it's free. It's easy, compared to the Microsoft alternative, which was commercial for a long time. I think it's now finally free. It's easy to use. It's easy to install. It's easy to manage. It just works.
Yeah, I just did a presentation for the assistant superintendent over. I just met with a San Juan School District, and I put together about 20 slides showing what Alan was talking about. All these Google Enterprise has put out all these schools who are using Chromebooks and using Google Apps, and one after the other, each one of those things say, we saved $50,000, we've saved $800,000, some of the colleges. It's going on and on and on about thousands and thousands. It's basically their technical ability to, by switching completely to Google, saves them an average of about 80% of what they were spending on the servers and the word processing and the computers that they were using in the past. So by using Google Drives and Chromebooks, they're saving at least 60 to 80% of their budget.
And we have this question from Joshua that's related to that answer, Harold. He asked, what are the major advantages to a company for using Google Apps? He corrects himself in a later message. I'm sold on it. How do I sell it to the higher-ups? And an easy way to sell it to the higher-ups is, I mean, if I remember correctly, the Apps for Business page has a price and feature comparison to some of the, to doing it yourself, to having a massive IT department that's responsible for this, and to going with a solution like Microsoft Office 365. There are severe advantages to using Google's offerings, and fundamentally they all boil down to price.
Also control. For example, we use Yahoo Mail. If you have Google Apps and you set up an email address, let's say you have a salesperson who suddenly quits, and maybe it's not a friendly departure, then if they have their own email system, can you control that? Can you like assign that email to someone else or for those contacts over? You can do that with apps. There are a lot of things. The cost is the biggest thing. If you do I don't know of anything that's that good and reliable that is in that either free or cheap the way apps is. And I think it's a key part of Google in that Amazon Web Services, they do go down sometimes, but it's crucial to Amazon. If Amazon Web Services goes down for 10 minutes, people are losing millions and millions of dollars. It's a big deal, and Amazon themselves use it. So if they go down, they're on it. It's their number one priority to fix it. It's not like Yahoo Mail, which can go down for, God knows how long, or you can be cut off for days at a time because it's their redheaded stepchild. Apps is a big part of how Google operates, so it's a big priority that they keep it running. So you have stability. You have it's not as full featured as some other offerings, but it's just rock solid. And they tend to delay introducing things into apps until they really know that in the free system it works. Go ahead, Harold.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed this, but there's another thing that was announced at the same time this week, is relating to that, is that this week they announced that you can password protect a document. So if somebody comes in and grabs your laptop and you say you can use my laptop, you can password protect certain documents on there so they can have access to all your documents except for this one. When they try to go into that document, it's password protected. They just announced that this week.
This is for Drive?
Yeah, you can password protect an individual document in Drive.
Is this rolling out, or is that...
They announced
do you have documentation for this somewhere, Harold?
What?
Do you have a reference for this, Harold? Because I can't find it.
Yeah, because I know of the passcode lock for the apps on like iOS and stuff.
Yeah, they've got but that's for like to get access to the app itself.
Yeah, I didn't see anything for
this was the document. I read it today, but it specifically said you can password protect documents. So if somebody gets on your computer, they can't open that document. I gotta search for that. But I did see it today.
If you could find that, Harold, I'd love to know more, because everything I'm finding says no.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see I'll look at my history and see if I can find it. I'm going to have to leave now. I have a meeting in about 2 minutes, so I'll see you guys next week.
Well, we have 90 seconds left to chat, Harold. Thank you, Harold. Have a great one. All right. Any other thoughts on this really cool educational thing Google's doing? Okay. So now we've had the good Google news. Now we'll have the bad Google news. Did you have a comment you want to throw up there, Alan, first?
Oh, just Rich.
Alan hates those comments, and Alan wanted me to say, please keep them coming. All right. So next up is this is the same exact story we discussed at length, I don't know, months ago, and it has a completely different ending now, but it's not over yet, I guess. So, Alan, can you discuss, because I know you talked at length about this before, and I've kind of forgotten some of it. So can you tell us what the deal is in simple sentences with visual aids, as they say on the West Wing? But apparently Google has not fared well in the appeal against Oracle. in a suit that many of us thought was dead, but apparently it lives on.
Well, it was Oracle's appeal against Google because in the last round, Google won. So I'll be honest. From what I've read so far, I'm still a little bit confused about exactly what happened here and why. But for those of you that may not remember the case, a while back, Oracle sued Oracle, who is the current owner of the Java programming language, sued Google on the grounds that Google had taken Java's API, and I'll explain for Dan's sake once again what an API is in a moment. Sorry, we actually, a whole pile of comments suddenly came in, and maybe we'll address those in a moment. Oracle accused Sun of stealing all of Java's API and claiming that the API was copyrighted and subject to patent and patentable in certain ways. And Google retorted by saying that no, the implementation is copyrighted. The API is not copyrighted. The API is a specification for a language, and the language itself is public is public information. Anybody who uses the language needs to know these things. So as long as Google created a clean room implementation, they should be fine. Oracle maintains no, the API itself, the API can best be described as the way that a programmer does something in a language. So in order to, for example, print something out on the screen, there is an API called that print something on the screen. In order to add two numbers together, there is an API call that adds two numbers together. Now, we often refer to this as the plus operator, or a plus sign for, anyway. Oracle maintains that this is copyrighted in Java. A district court last year sided with Google. Yeah, I remember who's who. Sided with Google, saying that yes, there are elements that are of software that are copyrightable, but the API itself is not. And apparently, the appeals court has reversed this decision, saying that, or affirming Oracle's position that Google copied the structure, sequence, and organization of some key Java APIs when they developed Android, and sent it back down to the district court. Basically, by sending it back down to the district court, they're now saying that the district court and yet another jury needs to sit and listen to the case to determine, if I get this correct, whether, although it may have been copyrighted, whether Google was using it in a fair use scenario. So it now sounds like the case itself is fairly narrow. Michael and Cadeas, does it sound like I got it mostly right there?
I would think so. I mean, I really, it's like every time you turn around, someone's swinging. If it doesn't go their way, there's an appeal. So I mean,
well, there's always going to be an appeal. An appeal was expected, but
yeah.
I think I covered this in the past. In my mind, and I am a developer who's both written APIs and used APIs. What it sounds like Oracle is kind of saying is that we want everyone to use our APIs unless you're going to use it against us, which is, kind of hypocritical.
Okay, question. Now, if you said you've developed your own and used them, and API, application programming interface, is when I think of that, I think of the most recent example is these Twitter apps that were Twitter shut down or limited. Basically, if you want to create an app, you use the API for Twitter. If you want to create what you think is a better interface to use Twitter, Alan has publicly complained on this program about the lack of a right API for Google Plus. That people want to be able to come up with something like TweetDeck for Google Plus, and there are some workarounds. Friends Plus Me is one example, but that's kind of the way I think of API, or the most common implementation of it, the way most end users think of it. But there is the balancing act here. On the one hand, we all love that Android is free and it's open source. On the other hand, if you spend a bunch of time and money and resources, a year of your life, creating an API that you did from scratch, should you be able to copyright that? Because the whole point of the patent system is that if you are an original creator of something, that you get to profit from it for a period of time, and that motivates you to create things and to be an inventor. And then after a certain period of time, it goes public. So
that's how the theory goes, yes.
How do you balance these things?
Well, I think the balance is actually in the API itself. Because what an API does is it provides the specification for how you talk to this system. It doesn't provide the implementation of the system. So let's use Twitter as an example. Twitter has an API, and it specifies it tells everybody that if you want to post a tweet, here is the API call that you make, and here's what it takes, and here's what you need to pass it, and here's what it's expected to do in a broad sense. What it doesn't tell you is how it does that. So, in theory, if I wanted to, I could create a competing service with Twitter, call it Honker, and I could implement Twitter's API so that all of those clients who were working against Twitter would now automatically work against Honker. The question is, I can't look at Twitter's code. Twitter's got that locked up. So I need to take the APIs and duplicate the functionality without duplicating the code. One of the things the patent law allows for is for duplicate functionality. You just have to find a different way to do it. So, Oracle does not have a patent on any language that can add numbers. What they're claiming is that they have a copyright on adding two numbers in one particular way. And I don't think that makes any sense. And this is where the balance line is done. Oracle spent a lot of time implementing the code behind the API. For anybody who's familiar with Java, to think that Oracle actually spent much time designing an API is almost ludicrous because their API sucks. But all of the work wasn't in designing the API. The bulk of the work was in implementing the API. And the bulk of the work that Google had to do was in implementing the exact same API.
Could you dumb this down a little bit?
Oh God, I thought I was.
You are, and I appreciate that. But could
you?
So
I need to bring this down to Craig level. Got it.
That was a dig just then. If I didn't know you better, I'd think that was a dig. So here's.
Well, I was going to say to your level, but we already were talking at your level, I thought. So.
Here's my question. Think back specifically to the API that you wrote, and imagine that if I had more skills in the present day than I do, had done what Google allegedly did according to Oracle.
What exactly is an API? What's an API? I don't know what we're talking about.
It's application programming interface. It's the thing that you design so that other people can write apps. And correct me, Alan, if I'm wrong, but if you want to write a Twitter app for iPhone...
What exactly is an app?
No, it's not an app. What an API basically says is, if you want to talk to me, here are the specific ways that you get to talk to me.
Like,
So if-
like if you wanted to create an iPhone app, Craig, to be able to create a post and post it to Google Plus at noon tomorrow, which you can't do because you don't have a
I
right
just
API.
tell Siri to do that, and she just takes care of it for me. I don't need to know anything about APIs or programs.
Well,
or any of
Siri
that
would
stuff.
be using the API for whatever application it's writing to or reading from. An API is a way that an app talks to a service.
Actually, I would tell my assistant to tell Siri to do it. Would be the actual way that I would do
Okay,
it.
so Craig or Alan, can you explain, put this in perspective? In your specific, you said you've written APIs. Think about one of the APIs you've written, and think if what let's say that I or Craig, with all of our programming expertise, had done whatever Google is accused of doing, and had wholesale copied whatever. To explain what exactly transpired here, and try to put it in perspective, because you wrote an API, and do you think you should be able to sue us if we did straight up copy your API, if that's what happened? And I don't know.
No.
I'm trying to understand this better.
Let me try to simplify. Let me try to bring it down. Let us assume that I have written a server program. I'm running a service on the internet that will let any program on the internet add two numbers together. Okay, so this is a new Google service called Google Edition. And what Google Edition does is, they offer a web page. So you go to the web page, you enter in two numbers, and you click on a button, and it shows you what the result is if you add those two numbers together. You with me so far, Craig?
Oh yeah, I'm right here with you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is a great service, and Google, in a public interest, is willing to offer this service to others as well, so that if you could write an application that will take two numbers and send these two numbers to Google to add together, and Google will return the result. With me so far again?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. So the method that your program needs to use to talk to Google servers, that communication, that level of understanding is called the API. So it's basically saying, if you want to talk to this server, if you want to talk to this service, here is how you do that, here is what you give it, and here is what you get back. Make sense?
Yeah.
That's an API. In this case, we've simplified, it's a very simple API, but it's an API. Now, if Yahoo goes over and looks at Google and says, hey, they've got this really good service over there called the Edition API, and we think we can do the same sort of thing, but we're going to be able to do it faster because we've got these better algorithms to add two numbers together than Google does. So we'll do it faster, but for compatibility purposes, not everyone is going to want to rewrite their programs to use a completely different API. They're going to want to use the same API. They're going to want to talk to us the same way they talk to Google. So we're going to use the same API, just that they're going to call us with, but call us with the same numbers passed by, and we're going to give them back the exact same thing. Does that make sense, Craig?
Yeah. And what you're saying is that that's what's being disputed in the court.
That's what's being disputed in the court. It isn't how do you add two numbers. What it is how do I ask somebody to add two numbers for me? So it's not the method of doing something. It is the way to ask somebody to do that thing. Now, I don't see how that is copyrightable. I don't see why it makes sense that not the implementation, not the structure, not the organization, not the code that does the work, that I can understand that's represents the bulk of what a programmer is doing. But what they're saying is just the setup of how you ask somebody a question, how you ask something a question, how you ask something to do something, that is copyrighted. And I just don't see it. It undermines a lot of what we as programmers do. In a way, it says, it leaves Oracle open to saying, hey, since this is copyrighted, we're now going to require everyone who writes a Java program to pay us for it, because they are using our copyrighted material, i.e. the API. And that, I think, is simply ridiculous and goes against decades of programming practice.
I think another thing to point out is that these decisions are, in many cases, decided, whether, these cases are decided by juries. They say a jury of your peers, but we're talking about, however many citizens. It's a civil case. I'm not sure how many they have, if it's 12 or 9 or whatever. But the amount of time you've had to spend trying to explain on the simplest possible level to us, and then to be task a jury of, you could have a housewife, a house husband, whatever, and then for them to try to grasp these and make these billion-dollar decisions. 12 folks who have never heard of an API until they come in the courtroom. That's a whole thing there.
Dan, Sai has an absolute excellent couple of posts.
Go ahead, you're on.
And he says, if you think about it, at a restaurant, you have a menu. It represents all the different foods that you can order. You place an order with the waiter. He returns with your choice. The menu is a rough equivalent of the API list. When you place an order, you're executing a call against the API. And the food is what you get back. And I think this is actually a pretty good explanation. So you asked me earlier if it was okay for somebody to copy my API. And I'd kind of, using this analogy, say, well, if I opened a restaurant next door to yours, and I copied your menu, I just walked in, looked at your menu, and put the exact same things on my menu.
A better analogy, Alan, would be if you've ever if you've seen the Waltons where they had a general store.
Analogy.
Oh, it is, but I mean, to further this analogy, there was a time when general stores, you'd go up and there was a counter and you would say, I need, a bag of feed, I need some sugar, I need some salt, whatever you needed. And then someone had the brilliant idea, why don't we put shelves up and let the customers walk through and just pick out their own items and then ring them up at a cashier. It's quicker and more efficient. So the question is, would that person who first figured out, gee, this makes sense, should they have been able to copyright that? And so all other stores would have had to remain,
Dan,
with a counter where in their store they could go and do self-serve.
No, here's the problem with that, Dan. That's a patent. That is what we would call these days a business process patent. And although it's questionable about whether business processes can or should be patentable, that's what it is.
Should you be able to, at a Wawa or a Sheetz, you can go and you can order at a convenience store, you can go to a computer screen. At most places, you pick up a sandwich or you tell the person, you can put a button. Should they be able to copyright that?
That's, again, a business process. Those are patentable. I'm sorry, Dan, really, the restaurant analogy is spot on perfect. So let me turn the question over to you. If I have a restaurant that I've built, and it's got a great reputation, I serve great food, our menu is well renowned for having some really excellent stuff on it. If you open up a restaurant right next to mine and your menu has all of the exact same items on it that mine does, in the same order, is that legal?
I would think that there's actually a lawsuit. I forget what it is, but this gets to the movie Coming to America, where the guy created the restaurant McDevitt's, which had a burger which had 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, pickles, onions, but it didn't have a sesame seed bun, right? So could you copy the entire McDonald's menu and open up across the street from them? Is that what Oracle's accusing Google of doing? Or are they
That's
accusing
essentially
them?
what Oracle is accusing Google of doing, is copying the menu and providing something different than what they're providing. The food is obviously cooked by Google, not by Oracle. So it's not the same food. We don't know if the recipes are the same, for example. So if I'm trying to think boy, I'm totally not thinking of food. Okay, so if Oracle, for example, offers on its menu a clam chowder, Google is going to offer on its menu a clam chowder. Now, how they make the chowder is completely different. How they taste may or may not be different, but if you order a clam chowder, you get back a clam chowder.
So Oracle's claiming that they were the first ones to come up with a specific method of presenting a menu to the patron, and
No, not even method of presenting. They're saying they created a menu, a very specific menu, and Google came along and copied the items on the menu. Yes, Oracle is saying Google came along and copied the items on the menu. Google is saying we came along, read their menu, and provided a menu that offers the same things. Now, is that breaking the copyright?
I swear to God.
I mean, in that analogy, I think it would. I'm not for it, but I mean, in that analogy, once you break it down to that level, yes. Now, if you go back to the technical API, like the way I understand it, then no.
See, that's the thing, Michael. I don't think so. I don't, if all I'm doing is presenting the exact same things on my menu that you have on your menu.
So,
and
the issue is, though, you would not even have that idea to do the menu with those names or those things if I did not have my menu. Therefore, I should be compensated for having my menu, inspiring you the idea of doing that.
Okay.
Unless it was open source, which is not.
So Michael, that's an interesting argument. The problem is that Java itself is built on top of previous programming languages.
But that's open source.
Also, it gets to the detail. Like if at Michael's restaurant, he decides to offer a soup and a salad, and nobody else has ever done that before, and I say, you know what, that's a good idea. I'm gonna have a soup and a salad. It's pretty vague, right? But if Craig's restaurant has, advertises, spends money promoting a sandwich with 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, pickles, tomatoes, onions on a sesame seed bun, and I create that exact same sandwich, and he's invested money creating the Big Mac, and if I did an absolute duplication, then you can argue that I have stolen his material, which should be protected, and they've spent money promoting and is unique. So have they stolen a soup and a salad concept, which shouldn't be copyrightable, or the Big Mac?
I think using that analogy, if I called it a soup and salad and framed it as soup and salad on my menu, they should have gone on and said, we're going to do a chowder and salad, or a chowder and something. But even though it's still a soup and salad, they should have named it something instead of naming it exactly soup and salad.
And here's where I disagree. Using that analogy, that the phrase 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun is a trademark.
We're dating ourselves now because we remember the ad from the 80s.
Okay, the problem is that's a trademark, and that has a different set of protections again.
Okay.
Now, if Oracle wanted to, they could have trademarked, or they could have tried to trademark, list.add. And they would have been laughed out of trademark court because that's a generic term. And that kind of starts going where the question is, can Oracle is fundamentally saying that some of what they did, list.add, which adds a single item to a list, date.getMonth, date.getYear, which returns the month and year of a particular date. Are these copyrighted?
Now, when you brought it back to that level, yes, I disagree. This is not the same. But when you bring it down to that other level, it seems to be the same.
Well, but here's the thing, Michael. Yes, if we had a comment from Joshua saying, "I'm sure the menu at Ruby Tuesdays is copyrighted," and it probably is. And that's because Ruby Tuesdays uses clever names for some of its food items.
Which is what they should have done.
Right. But Oracle couldn't do that, or Sun couldn't.
No. What Google should have done is use clever names for the different things.
No, the reason why Google didn't is because they wanted to be able to have the same offering as Oracle. If we go back to the menu example, okay, so I'm offering on my menu clam chowder, hot chili, and
hold on.
Chicken noodle soup.
Alan, it only works. It only works if you name the food. So you're offering a Big Mac. If you trademark the Big Mac, okay, and then someone else copies the Big Mac, which I think Carl's Jr. did something similar.
It's easy to do
but
something similar.
They didn't call it the Big Mac, even though it has 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on some kind of bun, Kaiser roll, something.
On some kind of bun. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all about the bun, Pam.
But basically, they copied the sandwich. But they didn't call it anything like a Big Mac. But when they did their commercials, they showed them next to each other and said, ours is better than the Big Mac, and it's the double special or whatever. So they did. So the mistake Google made was to call it the same thing. So
and
now.
I think going back to my menu example, I don't think that was the mistake. I think if there was a mistake, that it was Oracle's mistake in using generic and well understood computer science terms. So they used list. Let me put it to you this way. One of the APIs in Java is the fact that if you use a plus sign in between 2 numbers, it adds those 2 numbers together. Is this a radical concept to any of us?
No.
I mean, I guess that depends on, if I'm in C#, doing that wouldn't do the same thing. But, I get it, but I don't know.
Well, okay, so let me go back to my menu example. Okay? So I have on my menu clam chowder, chili, and chicken noodle soup. Okay? And, now Michael comes along, and he puts on his menu clam chowder, chili, and chicken noodle soup. How is that violating my copyright?
Look, I get the issue with trademark. I get that. It probably should have been a trademark more than something else. But look at App Store. If I call something App Store, I get sued my behind off.
That's because that's a trademark term.
Exactly. So, maybe they fail at copyright, which is something that should have been a trademark, but it's still wrong ethically if it's copied the same, even though it's a generic, like I understand list.at, that I understand totally. Like, if someone told me you can't do it, copy that and paste it, I would look at them like they're crazy, but once it's as personal as a menu, I would think. I don't know. I guess I see it 2 different ways.
Was this a publicly available code?
Well, that doesn't excuse them. Let's be clear here. Yes, it was public. Well, there are 2 aspects that were publicly available. You said something that I'm not sure you meant to say, Dan. You said, was this publicly available code?
No.
Okay, the answer is yes, it is. You can get the Java source code easily. They hand it out.
Okay, so...
But it's still copyrighted. The code is copyrighted. And there is, in my opinion, which apparently disagrees with the court, it is perfectly legitimate to copyright code. Code represents a very, very significant investment in getting something to work. An API, yes, it represents an investment, but it is a much, much lower level of investment.
Because you've already done all the work. You're just...
Well, you haven't done the work. It's actually the thing you do first. Is, at least if you do it correctly, it's the thing you do first, is you say, okay, these are the things we need to do on a list object. I need to be able to add things to the list, remove things from the list, and get what's on the list.
Can you imagine the hurdle for the jurors? Because I've been on a jury twice, and you do sort of understand the weight of the responsibility. You take it seriously. I took it very seriously because I realized in both cases it was one was a burglar, one was a drug guy, you know, you don't want to send someone to jail, whatever, but you take it seriously. But this, how do they possibly have the skill set, and how can they learn it in that short amount of time? It's got to be an incredible leap for a jury to make, and an incredible burden for lawyers on both sides to figure out what experts to bring out to present, you know, how patent law works and that sort of thing. And it brings up the question, Michael, do you think you have a right to a jury of your peers? Arguably, 12 random jurors are not the peers in a case like this, right? Because they would have a clue what this is. This isn't like, did you steal the purse? Did you rob the liquor store? This is a very complex thing. Should these be decided by juries like this?
I mean, I think it should be decided by people who actually understand the concept. I mean, most people understand the concept of right and wrong, but I mean, when it's up to a level of something they don't understand, most of them, then I don't think it's a valid judgment.
Pam, what do you think? How would you, I mean, if you just took like patent experts, it'd be very, very difficult to find a jury room full of patent experts who didn't have a dog in the fight on one side or the other. But at the other side of the coin is you know, jurors are supposed to be random, but you expect them, I mean, there's no like literacy test or a poll tax to be a juror. Should there be something like that for a case like this? What's the best way to handle this? I mean, you shouldn't have to get an associate's degree you know, and have a 6-month trial to try to get up to speed on these things. And would anybody be qualified if you were just a layman or lay woman to make a decision like this, despite how much expert tutelage was presented? What do you think, Pam?
It's not the jury's job necessarily to have a working knowledge of the things being decided. It's the lawyers on either side. It's their job to make the case understandable, regardless of the level of the juries, of the jurists. So I don't think that we should have special juries, because then who decides? We already have the prosecuting side and the prosecuting side and the defending side. Sorry, we already have both of the lawyers on either side choosing juries. So those are the ones that it's in their best interest to choose the people who either are really dumb or really smart, or, you know, understand the topic or don't understand the topic, or friendly or not friendly or whatever. And the good thing about our justice system is that we don't get to pick juries like that, and that's also the exacerbating part of trials, is that we don't get to choose the pool from which we pick a jury. So I disagree with you. I think that they should be regular people, and it's up to the lawyers and the judge to narrow them down from there.
Well, the pro side is that they're definitely impartial, because they have no clue what the hell this is about until they get in there and get educated. And this also says that who you pick as your legal team in a case like this is very important, because that's where it all rests. Because these jurors do not understand patent. Your average juror has no clue about this patent law in general, which is obscure, and this particular part of it, which is obscure and largely unlitigated to date, and that's why these cases are coming forward. Go ahead, Sheila.
I was gonna say, oftentimes, I remember I was just called to jury duty a few months ago, and I didn't have to go because she didn't get to my number. You know, when it comes to you need to call in, da 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 da, you know, to get your jury number. But and oftentimes when you do go down to court for jury duty, they will ask you questions on, okay, yeah, I'm married to a firefighter. Yes, I'm a crossing guard. They will do their process of elimination as well. So that's my 2 cents.
I bet you would have hung him high at noon.
Hung them high and dry.
No mercy from Sheila. Alan, did you want to add anything or any standout comments you want to throw up?
Well, we're having a good conversation in the comments about these restaurants, and the more I think about it, the more I like the analogy. You know, a couple of times both you and some others have said, so what Google should have done is added, is changed the names on the API. And honestly, two things. One, I don't think they should have, because the point of them using the API and the point of the API existing is to create a base of programmers that already understand how to do something and let them use these tools, these new tools, in a way that they already know how to do. I mean, that was the point of it, but that's the point of any API.
I think
Let me address 2 first, though. 2, if they did something, even if all they did was change the name, Oracle still would have sued them on the fact that they created a derivative work based on copyrighted work. And no matter how much derivative you make of it, if they could prove that it was a derivative work, then they would still claim ownership of it under the copyright law. So that's another pointer about why this isn't copyrighted.
It seems to me that it would be ridiculous if everyone has to come up with their own naming conventions for things. If everyone knows 2 + 2, and then if I want to do a math class, I have to say 2 add 2, and then if Sheila wants to do a math class, she has to say 2 sum 2, and we all have to have our own proprietary thing when everyone knows it's 2 + 2. That's what everyone's used to.
Here's the thing that's even worse about it, is the fact that if I created, the system that says it's, 2 + 2, if you did 2 add 2, add is just a derivative of plus. It's just a derived work. And since plus is already copyrighted, you're now making a derivative of a copyrighted work, which you're not allowed to do. So not only do you have to come up with a different name, you have to come up with a completely different way of thinking about it in order for it not to violate my copyright.
If Google wanted to establish that base thing, they probably should have contacted them and do this collaboration thing. I mean, I get what you're saying. I understand it. I feel the same way in programming. I don't want to do something, make a whole other way that's painful. I don't like to reinvent the wheel. But I mean, if you're going to copy someone's homework assignment that says 2 + 2 is 4, I mean, you may want to change some things to turn it in and do 1 + 3 is 4. I mean, let's get the same thing. And that way you won't know it copied word for word for the same thing.
But you're not copying it word for word. What you're copying are the broad concepts.
Well, I guess it wasn't that broad.
You don't I don't know the APIs specifically that are being complained about.
I don't know.
But I know Java APIs fairly well, and most of them are pretty damn broad.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a prediction for you guys, or a forced prediction for you guys. It's 2 parts. Who should win the case in the end, once it's appealed, who should win and who will win?
I think we're in agreement here.
Well, let's see, Alan. Who should win the case? Who's right? And B, who do you think will win?
Google is absolutely right in this case.
Do you think they'll win?
That I don't know, because now you're talking about lawyers and juries, and those are two of the
fairly
well,
unpredictable things.
Yeah.
Cadeus, who should win? Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No. I'll leave it there.
Okay, I'm going to ask Cadeus and then Michael and then Pam and Sheila if she wants to weigh in, but she's about as on the same level as I am about this stuff. I don't know if I could say. And then Alan, if you want to check out the comments and pull up whatever you want to pull up. Cadeus, who is right in this case is the first question.
I think Google's right at this point.
And who do you think is going to end up winning the case, which is a different question?
That's kind of difficult. I don't know, only because these cases go on for years and years and years, and then people generally don't care anymore, and then so I'm not sure on who's going to win.
Okay. And I see you're wearing Google Glass.
Oh God.
Have you bought Alan Furstenberg's book?
I have.
I bought it.
We can talk about my book later.
I bought it. I just want to put a plug in there. I'm having a blast. I'm actually editing it, which is forcing me to read it. Unfortunately, I'm trying to figure out a way I can edit it without reading it, and I can't. But it's a great book. It surprised me, and that it's interesting. It's a great book. I'm enjoying reading it. They didn't ask me to. I'm just doing it, and I'm actually really enjoying reading it. Michael Banks, who do you think is right? Is question one.
I think Google's right because I think it would set a bad precedent if Oracle wins this, and I think it may put a hamper on innovation if they win this.
And
that's an excellent point.
Absolutely. I mean, but the opposite could be true, Alan. If you want to be the devil's advocate here, because patent law exists to incentivize innovation, and if someone can just, according to Oracle's view, steal your innovation, then you're not going to be incentivized to create the next one, right? So you can argue that both ways.
But here's the thing. Under Oracle's argument, just about any language that is even vaguely related to Java is stealing their innovation.
Hence the bad precedence thing.
And that's why it's bad precedent. I could equally well argue that Java, since it has its origins in C,
yeah.
Okay, it is stealing concepts from C and C++.
But there's no owner of C right now. I mean, right? I mean, Microsoft, I don't think would do that because I think
C is owned by Bell Labs and its successors. Go check the copyright.
Oh yeah.
Check the tape. All right, and Michael Banks, I don't know if I asked you the second part. You said
I don't know.
You thought Google was
we'll
right.
see.
Who do you think is going to be victorious in the end?
I hope Google wins.
I'm just trying to get B-roll to troll you guys later to get you to say, I think so-and-so is going to win, and if it doesn't happen, I can embarrass you on your birthday or something.
I hope Google wins. We'll see.
All right. Pam, did you want to weigh in on this? Because you're in a biotech field, right? So you've probably seen your major biotech company, as you describe it in your profile, involved and embroiled in similar situations, although different, but similar in that it's very complex for a jury to understand. And if this exchange has been any example, I can't imagine what a jury would go through, because they're trying to make the right decision. Because I've never seen a juror who didn't step up to the plate and try to do the right thing. But you're a victim of what information is presented to you when it's a completely unique concept. It's almost like we were put in Beijing and had to settle a court case there, or if we were all Christians or atheists or Jews or whatever, and you were suddenly sent to be a juror in a Sharia law trial, and you had no knowledge of it, and you had to be two sides were saying things, you have no clue what to do, and you want to do the right thing, but you don't know what the answer is. What are your thoughts on this, Pam? Who do you think's right? Who do you think's going to win?
I have mixed feelings about who is right, just based on the conversation that's gone on here. At first, I thought that Google was basically right, because I was under the assumption that Java like some of the other platforms was actually a language. And I thought that computer languages were pretty much free for anyone to use. I mean, my dad took a class in Pascal. I mean, can they teach Pascal if Pascal's owned by some dude? You know, I mean, how can you teach a programming language and but you can't use it? You know, I mean, it's kind of strange. But if that's not the case, then then maybe Java's right. I mean, Oracle is right. But if it is a language and it's a platform that is widely used by people making and not making money, and these other people aren't paying Oracle for it, then I think Google should win.
It's crazy. Who do you think will win, or do you have a prediction?
Personal opinion, if the jury and the judge are smart, they will rule for Google, because I've always been under the assumption that anything like this that is then built upon further should be open source and should be available for anyone to use and without compensation. But we'll see. We'll see. It's not going to be good if Oracle wins.
Yeah, it's
What's your
interesting.
call on this, Dan?
My take is I'm not qualified to say. My loyalty is to Google generally, unless I see them blatantly screwing up. I think that this is about Android, right? I mean, that's the bottom line here.
Well, this is sort of, yes.
So I think what they did was they created an operating system for phones that allowed people to make really high-end phones like the one, and also really low-end phones that have opened the market to China. Because I don't think your average Foxconn worker or someone who's making 50 cents a week or whatever can afford an iPhone. So they've created this wonderful operating system, and they've profited from it though. So I'm for Android, and they've opened it up so anybody can. I mean, Amazon famously took Android and forked it and created their own thing, and basically cut Google out and is doing their own thing. And Google said that's fine, you're allowed to do that. But
and that's Oracle just butthurt. That's the baseline.
But the other side of that coin is that I do believe that if Alan spends a bunch of months writing a great program and a great API, if the program's a hit, that he should have the right to profit from that. And I wrote a game, and it was pirated. I actually bought a pirated CD off eBay just because I was kind of flattered that they took the time to steal my game and make it and sell it. So I actually bought a pirated copy of my own game. So I see both sides here, and I don't know enough about patent law to say. My heart is with Google. My gut is I have no idea who's going to end up winning, because being right does not necessarily guarantee victory. And I'm just it's a matter of it's extremely complex, intricate, largely undecided new ground patent law. So any of us would be foolish to put 100% prediction on this, and I think to the last person, all of us didn't. So this is may go up all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, because like they need another. I mean, they're trying to figure out what Aereo is and all this other stuff.
I'll be honest. I doubt it's going to get to the Supreme Court. I don't think the Supreme Court will take it.
There's billions at stake, and are you saying it's too obscure to where it's a precedent isn't needed? They'll just let the chips fall where they may. It's not like because Aereo they had to take because there were different. The second tier court right under SCOTUS you had different rulings, so they basically had to. That was a forced hand. But in
Well,
this case,
yeah,
you're saying it's so obscure that this is unlikely to come up again, so they could just
No,
pass
I think
and
what it
be
is
fine?
right now the Supreme Court tends, and it's not an absolute, but they tend not to take cases unless there are several examples of the issue being raised by lower courts. This is one case. We haven't seen other cases like it yet, really. So, I'm sure somebody will try to appeal to them. I'm not sure the high court will accept it.
Okay. Sheila, did you want to offer any words of wisdom? I know you're like me.
Well-
you're an API patent guru of sorts.
Yes, really, I am so smart in that area, and yes, I lie like a rug. One thing I do not like about Oracle is when you download Java, if you're not careful, you end up installing stuff that you don't even know you're installing, like bugs on your computer. I've got them from Oracle, and I don't like it.
When you say bugs, you mean like viruses?
Bugs and viruses, yes. Mm-hmm.
From Oracle?
Or the obtrusive ask.com toolbar. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think that was owned by the New York Times, believe it or not. I think they sold it.
It's if you're not careful about not checking, there's these little boxes. If you don't check it, you end up installing all kinds of crap. I've had to clean my computer off and my son's computer off. So I hope Google wins. So there you go.
So that's the forced prediction. What's your prediction? Do you think they will win? Or I know you're hopeful that they will, but what's your actual prediction? Now you're going to be the first one to actually make a prediction here. So the pressure's on, Sheila. Will Google win or will Oracle win? You're the deciding vote.
I predict that Google will win.
There you go. She was the one ballsy enough. You got some kahunas, Dubois. I'll give you that. All right. So topic 3. What are we about an hour and a half in?
An hour 15 minutes.
All right.
And in fact, on that point, Captain Euro has a bone to pick with us. When Dan wanted to discuss Vic's departure, something that's related to Google Plus on this show, you all protested, but you don't mind spending an hour on this non-Google Plus topic.
Oh my goodness!
Salam.
I would point out that we did not spend a 1 hour on this topic. However, when we were talking about Vic's departure, we spent over an hour on the first show, and then on 2 subsequent shows, we continued to spend lots and lots of time talking about it.
There you go.
And it's not that we protested, although we were kind of grumpy by the 3rd show. It's that we were very upset about all of the negative and bad reporting that was involved. But we were quite happy to discuss the issue, and we did 3 times. So thank you for your feedback, Captain Euro, but I disagree.
All right. So, yeah, I agree that the larger story there was all the negative, Google Plus is dying stories related to it.
And you know what? I'll repeat it on this show. Okay? Why did all of the articles that talked about, Vic leaving and talked about how sucky Google Plus was, why did none of them blame Vic for screwing Google Plus up? Cadeus, what are your thoughts on that?
How about we move on to the next topic? How about that? Not another show of our Rumors Week or whatever you want to call it.
Oh my God, is that copyrighted? I'm gonna write that down.
Rumors Plus Week. I think it'll work.
Oh, Rumors Plus Week. Yeah, that was
Rumors
one of our
Plus.
viewers. I think Nick Singh called it that. Our Rumors.
All right, what's the current timestamp, Alan?
Oh boy.
We're at 1 hour 20 minutes. 1 hour 19 minutes 10 seconds.
See, it's not an hour. It's 56 minutes.
Yeah, about that.
So there, you could not be more wrong describing this as an hour. All right,
Carry on.
bottom line to Captain Euro, touche. Okay, Google Plus consolidates your notifications, eliminating the often annoying
word that Dan can't say
Plus
and not get
beep.
this censored.
Yeah, because like I swear to God, I've just a few days ago or a couple weeks ago, I think I shared this with Alan privately. Because when it's something like this where you're talking about a user,
just call it plus loving.
plus loving, right? And think about like what lovers do, and think about the naughty word for that, and that is plus effing. So, okay, so that happened. And
What do you mean? What?
I've literally, Sheila, I love you, Sheila. I'm gonna give you a big hug virtually. I'm gonna plus love you.
Please do.
So what?
You haven't done.
The other
So
day,
please do.
I this is getting surprisingly risque. So anyway, the other day I logged in and I had 99 plus notifications. I looked and it was like one dude who was basically stalking me, and you know, +1, +1, +1, +1. So each one of those was a different thing. So I was like, okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you checking my stuff out. I appreciate you sharing the love. But oh my God, what if it's something like, you know, Alan saying, I really need your help with something, or Kadeya saying, hey, can you check this out? This is really funny. Or Sarik with, you know, his favorite Reddit post or whatever it is, it would get lost in the shuffle. And so, Alan, what is the deal? I don't see a link here, but I don't know who put this in. But based on the way the thing's written, I'm guessing it came from you. Just wild
Nope,
speculation.
it actually came from me.
Oh, okay. Pam, why don't you lead on this then?
So now, let's say you went through and you plus 15 of my posts or whatever.
As I often do.
Yeah, never.
Me and Mike Elligan right there. Click, click, click.
Yeah.
Like Tourette's.
So what it'll do now is it'll summarize. It'll say Dan McDermott plus 15 of your posts. And then if you click it, it'll open up the 15. You know, you'll get to see the 15 that you plussed, but you don't have to open it. You can just exit out and not see.
So it consolidates all the
Yeah,
notifications.
it consolidates them. So that's pretty
good. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I like that.
Good. I
You know,
haven't.
this is wonderful. It's great to see that they're finally getting to some of those bugs that we filed 2.5 years ago.
Baby steps, Mr. Furstenberg.
Yeah. At
get
this rate, Google
to
Plus
them
is going to
eventually.
grow up in about 30 years. If they're just getting to bugs from, almost 3 years ago now.
In defense, there is a process. Things have to be tested, make sure things work.
Due process.
Thank you, Vic.
What
Thank
are you
Vic.
talking about? They don't test crap.
Is that how you
They
sleep
just
better at night,
throw it
Michael?
out there and let you do the testing. What the hell are
I
you
will
talking
agree to
about?
disagree.
Is that how you sleep better at night, Michael? Telling yourself that?
Sure. Cause I mean, if you had your own thing, your own process, you might want to do some research. How many people affect this, or how many people use this, or would this actually help? Would be the easy way to do it. You don't want to do things that throw against the wall and have Alan come bash later on. You want to
What the hell is that in your hand? Is that some kind of Jedi thing?
Yeah, they did that with the
Michael,
YouTube
is that a-
commenting system. They did that with the plus. Here's Joe Blow plus some random post, and
Michael, what is that
No.
thing in your hand? Is that some kind of Jedi thing?
Yes.
Are you in the new Star Wars movie? What is it? It looks. What the hell is it?
Michael, why are you waving something around when you know it's going to distract Dan?
did you forget?
Yes, I did forget.
You're not allowed to eat, fidget.
You can't move. You got to sit like a statue for the.
I'm
Look,
serious.
Then
I-
Dan goes and
what
drinks
is it?
something. And
He's
Dan's going
leading
to ask him
the
in 30 seconds what the hell he's drinking.
He's leading the music. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. Once I said that, you all started singing at the same time. I didn't know.
Here you go.
Cadeus, is that pineapple or mango? No, what is it? Is it looks like a What is that thing you're waving around? Is it like a
my
musical
gosh, it is
conductor
like,
thing?
We call it a blind. You know the things you turn and blinds go up and down. You know that.
And it broke.
Yes. Well, it didn't break. I can put it back together.
Oh,
Okay.
well, I have a few of mine that broke, so.
But I got it. Actually, I don't know. They might sue me for the process. But like, if I want to turn my light off, you know, I can like go over here and just flip it with this instead of getting up and go around my whole desk. So I mean, it's like a little convenient. I never fixed it because it works better this way than what it actually was used doing.
There you go.
Okay. All right, so we're all excited about that. I see I bought myself a new topic. It's like I'm on Jeopardy. All right, Google buys and then shuts down restaurant website builder. I don't know how to pronounce it. Alan, how do you pronounce it? Appetas?
Appetas.
Appetasshole? What is the...
Like appetizers. Because it's for restaurants.
So it's not appetasshole. That's wrong.
Or
All right, so why did they buy this and why did they shut it down?
Who knows why they shut it down? Who knows why they bought it for that?
Money.
Money is why they shut it down?
I mean, if it wasn't making enough money, they've been known to shut something down, or if it wasn't having
They
enough
bought it
users,
and shut it down immediately.
or if it didn't have enough users. They give it time to blossom. I mean, you can't shut it down just because it didn't automatically make money.
No, they bought it and shut it down same day.
So
They bought it,
absorbed...
and in
well,
the
they did the
announcement
same
of the
thing with
purpose-
milk.
In the announcement
right?
of the purchase, the owner said, "Thank you for using us, but we're shutting down the service effective immediately.
There
We're
was
going to
an
help you
ad-
transition to our competitors."
If
Then
you
was
remember,
it act higher or something? I mean,
if you remember Oink, Google did the same thing with Oink. They bought Oink and then shut it down.
Milk.
well, they just want the, either the technology or the people working there.
They want the people, yeah.
There's only two.
Who's the guy? Who was the milk guy? He was on Tech TV. Young guy, dark hair, skinny.
Are you talking about Kevin Rose?
Yeah, he.
Yes,
That was milk, right? They bought his company and they immediately shut it down.
Oink.
And then he moved him to. Was that Oink or Milk or both?
No, Milk is the company. Oink was the app. There we go.
Okay, so. All right, so same thing. Yeah, they took Kevin Rose and they wanted to put him in ventures, and they wanted the team or whatever, so they did that. So, is this a case like that, or is this a case where they bought it and then it ended up not performing, and they just
No.
shut it down?
Shut down the same day.
Okay, so that's pretty fast. All right, you have 5 minutes to prove yourselves.
Well, it's totally not obvious why they did this.
It's
I mean,
speculation.
it's
They're
a-
just speculating.
It's a company that makes website, that helps people make their own websites in a very niche market, using, that lets them make some very nice websites. So okay, so they're trying to get the company, trying to get these people to do restaurant websites for Google.
Well, they own
revamp
Zagat.
sites completely.
They own Zagat. So
Yeah.
Maybe for Google Local.
But here's the thing: if they want
That's what I was thinking.
if they bought the company so that Google would now own restaurant websites, which they've had a smash bang job of doing this before, then why didn't they keep it running? Why did they shut it down immediately?
Alan, they might have liked their menu. That now they can buy them now instead of doing something similar to get sued later on. So they just buy them now, shut them down, and then they, implement the things.
Clearly, clearly they're
there
going
you
to
go.
incorporate.
Maybe Google should just buy Oracle.
Well, that's kind of,
That's not actually a bad idea.
Oracle actually has a lot of cash on hand.
clearly Google was intrigued with their technology or their products or their consumer base, and they're going to incorporate that into some future product, I'm guessing, right?
If they were intrigued by it, then why didn't they keep it running until the replacement was ready? Instead, they just handed a bunch of people over to the future competition.
So do you think that they're
And they'll help them go to the competition.
How do you know they didn't hire them?
Was this a
No,
personnel?
I mean the customers, not the
Yeah.
not
Oh,
the,
the
not the
customer.
employees.
Are they buying the staff here or the technology or what? If they're buying the technology, it does make sense that they would keep it running for a while because they could incorporate it
Yeah.
into their own products, like expand
It's a-
Zagat to be a a
And
more
here's the
full
thing,
serviced offering.
And as cool as this product is, there's nothing really remarkable about it. So if you're buying it for the staff, again, you stick it on life support, like you've done for a bunch of other products in the past. And if you're out to replace it, fine, you build the replacement. And if you're not, why did you get these guys? Because what they bring to the table is domain-specific knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
They're not bringing any radical programming knowledge. What they did is nifty, but it's nifty because they understood the product domain, not because they understood the technology any better.
Maybe this is a case where this is wild speculation here, but as you look at Zappos, maybe they're looking to expand into social and more full-featured offerings for restaurants, and it's maybe a fairly unrelated topic or product compared to what Appitas offers, but they think that this team could do it and implement this other vision, and they agreed. And so they said, well, we're going to dump this thing, we're going to go in this other direction, and they think that they have the skill set and the knowledge of that industry to pull that off better than the internal Google people. That's the only plausible explanation I can think of from 10,000 feet in the air. But I know Cadeas has the inside scoop. He has the
Two
skinny.
quick comments from Richard. Hopefully it gets integrated into Google Sites. Don't bet on it somehow.
Yeah, because like Alan said, they wouldn't have dumped all their customers if they were getting ready to do that. They would have held on until they integrated it.
From Joshua, Google wants local businesses to put themselves on Google+. This software helps them do that. Okay, so why are you dumping the software? I mean, this is the part that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much dumping the software as dumping the customer base. You'd think they would have held this on until they could integrate them if that was their plan. But it must not be, so I think they're just after the team, and I'm guessing in an unrelated or semi-related but different trajectory, or they would have kept the product in place if it was, incorporating that into something else. I think that it's about Zagat, I think, or whatever. And I really have no idea what I'm talking about. So
Because they've done such a bang-up job with Zagat.
maybe that's why they're looking for this, to get this team on there, So, any further thoughts on Appitas? We're talking about food a lot tonight, Alan. I'm getting hungry. We've gone through.
So what are you going to eat, Dan?
I think you talked about
Are those strawberries you have next to you?
Are they?
Or are they cheese doodles? It's kind of tough to tell from this angle.
They're croissants. Okay, so that happened. All right, 30 seconds you can never have back. All right, next up is Google buys.
Dan, at least it was only 30 seconds. If you had been asking the question, we'd be, 30 minutes in and still talking about it.
All right. A rare Alan dig there. Google buys Stackdriver to boost cloud computing services.
Did they close it down the next day after they bought it?
No,
Oh, okay.
doesn't look like it.
Not
I don't
yet,
know.
anyway.
I haven't seen this. I don't know anything about this story. Hopefully someone does.
No, I didn't even read it. I put it in, but I didn't read it.
You're
Oh.
hired, Pam.
Hey, you know how long it took me just to find these things? I'm searching the dregs of the internet looking for Google News. Okay, so
I'm just happy that you're
like
using the
crime.
Bitly thing.
keeps
I'm gonna-
asking me to sign into my Twitter account. I always have to go and look to see what my password is for my Twitter account because I never remember.
I thought it was I love Dan was your password for Twitter. But maybe it's something.
So this story.
Yeah. So what's the deal? Does anyone know anything about this?
Read it.
Have we bullshitted enough for Alan to read the story and be able to tell us what it is?
Yeah. So what these guys apparently do is they build this company known as Stackdriver lets you set up what they call monitoring systems, so you can see how well your services are running on a cloud computing platform, whether they're utilizing the CPU well, whether they're running it all. A number of other things along these lines. You can sort of think of it as analytics for software.
Sounds like they need that for Chrome.
Well, they probably do, but this is specifically for cloud services, as opposed to desktop services, which have their own problems. Apparently, Google had some offerings along this line, but they sucked, which I realize shocks everyone in this conversation. So they bought a solution.
Also, one thing that looks neat, little conspiracy to it, is a lot of Stackdriver's, their large customers are like Animoto, SmugMug, and 99 Design. Seems like a lot of photo, a lot of their customers are photo driven. So I mean, it might be a way to increase performance using photos or something too.
That would be interesting, and I might agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that it looks like these guys are being integrated into the cloud base, and Google's been doing a hell of a lot on cloud offerings recently. We've seen, the cloud computing stuff a month or so ago, as opposed to the Photos team, which looks like they got lost in a dark room one day and haven't emerged since.
I think they could just benefit both ends. I know they're doing a big push on cloud computing. I know that, but I mean, I think this may help on that end as well.
It would be interesting, although I can also easily see all of those companies, bailing off of the platform because they don't want Google to steal their technology.
That's another way of looking at it.
It's possible. I don't think the Photos team has their shit together enough to steal from anybody, to be honest. I honestly think they're going around with cameras trying to capture ideas, and they're accidentally walking from room to room on the Google campus. So they're taking pictures of themselves. I'm trying to think of some other digs I can get in on the Photos team.
I pray someone from the Photos team, or is somewhere that they can send this to the Photos team to watch this. That way they actually get, they're aware of your like or dislike for their service.
Oh hell, I've told them my opinion of their service. Hopefully they're already well aware of my.
I bet they have a big picture of you on the wall with your hands, and they look at you every day.
With little holes in it that they were throwing darts at. No, in all seriousness, I consider Photos the same way I consider many, many, many other Google products, and it'll be nice when they finally release a version, but until then, we'll have to suffer with whatever the hell this is they've given us.
They're the same people that did events too, right?
My understanding is that events were done by the Photos team, yes.
Okay, explains a lot. Next topic.
I hear that events have gotten some new cover art.
How about they cover those 15 things that we need fixed in events? That'd be nice.
Right, because we really needed better banner art. Anyway, so the next topic was Google Shopping Express comes to the New York City and West Los Angeles area. I don't know if Cadeus and Pam are in the Los Angeles coverage area. I know that I'm not in the New York coverage area. Dan, are you in the coverage area?
I am not. Believe it or not, Bentonville, Virginia, population 700, is not in the coverage area.
You forgot he's in the middle of the forest, Alan.
But there's a big space for this. I needed inkjet cartridges for my Kodak printer, and I ended up getting. I went to Walmart, and I was reading this thing on Consumer Reports about the best printers or whatever, and I found this printer. It was like a $29.99 printer at Walmart that actually comes with the real cartridges, and it's literally cheaper to buy the printer than to buy the cartridges, right? Which is commonly the case or close to that. So I went there. I bought it on their site to store thing, and then I went to the store and they were out of stock, even though they said it was in the store. So it was supposed to be there in 2 hours. So I went down to the store. It was not there, and so then I asked for the manager. And I love Walmart because they circulate our newspaper, so I'm pro Walmart. Despite all the haters, I don't care. Screw you, and you know. But they didn't have a printer, and then I ended up buying a $100 printer, which is a $120 printer. A brother, which was.
That's where you failed right there. That's where you failed.
I agree. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
I basically used it to print checks, to print payroll checks. So I just need black monochrome, and
with a Lexmark.
I went back, and it was the #1 selling printer on Amazon. So I wasted like 3 hours at Wally World, and when I went home, I could have gotten it for $100 instead of $120, and I could have gotten it the next day for free shipping with Prime, because if you order in the morning, you get it, next day usually, guaranteed second day. But I just was like, they got to up their game. And then the lady said that they canceled the first printer because they didn't have it in stock. And then I got a text yesterday saying, congratulations, my printer's in stock, or that they've just sent it and they've still charged me for it. So I have to call customer service again. They've got to up their game because Amazon just has their thing. And so people are getting more accustomed to the privilege of or the convenience of these same day shopping services. I think this is a big thing. I think it's being underestimated. I think
is that where this story was going? I was totally lost because Google Shopping Express doesn't sell printers, so I really had no flipping clue what the hell you were trying. Where you were going.
I'm talking about the big box versus I can go online in the comfort of my living room and click, and then it's quickly at my residence, and versus the traditional experience. It's as big an innovation as my Walton's example when they went from the counter where the person would fetch the stuff and then all of a sudden you could get it yourself and pay for it. I mean, this is a big deal.
Kadeus, what do you got?
Well, since we're wandering all the way off topic, Sai says that he should have bought a Great Value printer while he was at Walmart. So.
Touche, Sai.
So, all right, so...
You know what? I'm wrong. I'm sorry. You can buy a printer using Google Shopping Express.
So that's Dan's problem, is that had he just done that to begin with and stopped living in the middle of the forest, it would have worked out for him.
Can you say that first part again? You're what? It's not right, but you're the other thing. Can you just say that so I can get a screen capture of this? I'm just kidding. Okay, so has anyone had any experience with the Google Shopping Express product? Anyone read any reviews, or I mean,
mostly when I hear people talking about it, they're talking about it in terms of food and other grocery items.
Ooh, speaking of which.
Does anyone have a prediction on when the Amazon drone thing, is it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Because the FAA has to get off their doofuses.
As soon as the driverless cars go through, I think that'll be like right afterwards.
Okay, so clearly we're all incredibly excited about this. Dan's so excited he fell out of his chair.
Wow.
All right, so Go Shopping Express.
Dan, we have an update from Cy about that Great Value printer. It comes with a remote.
Cy, that was a dig just then.
And we know how important remotes are to you. Thanks, Cy, for
that's an
important
exaggerated thing. But Cy, I appreciate you being a loyal viewer and using that knowledge to deliver targeted digs rather than the broad abstract ones that I get from Alan and Cadeas. All right, so that happened. Okay, so other news: Facebook Poke is dead, and so is Facebook Camera. So what's the story here?
Facebook itself is dead. So,
as Cadeas wears a Google Glass product that used to do Hangouts and doesn't anymore, temporarily, hopefully. Right?
We actually have a good question from Cy about Google Shopping Express.
Okay.
He wants to know if it takes Google Wallet.
Go ahead, Alan.
I have no clue. I'm guessing that's all it takes, though.
I would hope so.
You would hope so, but, this is Google.
Exactly.
All right, so my experience with Poke is I would get a thing that says somebody poked me. For a while, I would get something. It could have been 6 months ago. And it would say, so-and-so poked you. And then you'd poke them back, and they might think you're intruding. I mean, I was like playing with it. I was like, what the hell is this? What does poke mean? I mean, it almost sounds risque. And then it was like talk about a undefined, useless feature. And then the Facebook Camera, I don't even know what that is. What's the deal with this story? I'm not sure who put this in. Maybe Pam can enlighten us.
It's going away.
I put it in, but I have no idea what it is. I don't use Facebook.
Oh my God.
I read it and I still don't understand it. So
why do I have a feeling that this episode of Google Plus Week will be used to teach a class?
My job is to put the articles in. It's not to read them.
Okay, so that's fair. So Facebook has ended Poke. We want to announce that, first of all. And then also Facebook Camera is dead.
Now, these were all mobile apps, right? And this is at a time when everyone is saying that mobile is king and you need to break up your big monolithic apps into small, tiny parts.
Well, was Poke a mobile app?
I thought it was.
I thought it was a feature on the desktop. We have no clue what
Poke was a mobile app, actually.
So I did kind of scan the article. I mean, I'm not so I wouldn't be totally clueless. And and they said that it was like Facebook's answer to Snapchat. So
what's kind of funny is that Engadget's even saying that they didn't even know the camera app existed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I didn't know it existed.
Yeah. I mean,
so it's probably good that they're killing this stuff. They made the Google mistakes of not really advertising their stuff very well. So they did the Google thing and killed it.
Yeah, so I just did a search for Facebook Camera, and you can find out more at facebook.com/mobile/camera. I think it's a mobile app.
Yeah.
With the new camera app, you can share photos on Facebook faster than ever and see all your friends' latest shots in one place. This sounds like instant uploads.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it looks like instant uploads even. Anyway, if they're canceling this, somebody A should take down the page, and B, and B, again, I think it speaks to the issues with creating these many smaller separate apps. You know, you don't get to leverage anything at all.
Okay, so
But when the apps are huge, you have to be really careful about like energy usage, right? I mean, you have to make sure that the giant apps are only running what they need to run and at the time that you need them to run something, because
it's more memory usage. But yes, I'd agree with that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of monolithic apps either. But I think this, kind of points out that the smaller apps, which I generally am in favor of, I'll be honest, it points out that the smaller apps aren't inherently better. To get an app used, you create a good app. It doesn't matter if it's monolithic or small. You need to create a good app.
You need to create a good app, and then if you have other services like Drive, then you have to make sure that they can talk to each other.
Yes. And that's a notorious problem on iOS.
Okay, so
I wouldn't know. I don't know an Apple product, so I don't know.
So Poke is dying, and Facebook's camera app, which none of us knew existed, is apparently dying, and so we'll pause for a moment of silence to recognize that, and we wish all the fans, whatever. All right, so next up is, I know all the other topics, but I don't know this one. Apple to buy Beats Electronics for $3.2 billion. And
you want to talk about an absolutely baffling purchase.
This is like Beats by Dr. Dre, right? The headphones?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I see Cadeas and Michael have both left their seats. When I think Michael has Beats headphones. I know
It was
Cadeas
Nate
does.
that had the massive headphones.
I sure
Oh,
did.
Michael's got them too. Okay.
Okay, so Michael, why don't you lead on this? What's the deal with this, and how good are they really? Because I know Nate Swanner swears by them and loves them, and I tried some in a store, and they're phenomenal. And I'm an audiophile, so I know like good, sound when I hear it. They are that good. I think they're overpriced, but what are your thoughts?
If they're overpriced, that would explain why Apple bought them.
It may be the fact that they're overpriced that I've kept them for about 2 years now. Where before I've even had them, I've gone through like 20 pair of headphones. But I mean, I think it does seem like a perfect fit for Apple. It seems like their type of product, their quality, their overpricedness. But it's a popular brand. I think I only fear that they get rid of the name and try to put Apple on it and just take it all and just like brand them as Apple headphones next. I would like to keep the Beats brand out there. I'm interested to see where they go with this, but I hope the overpricedness doesn't double since Apple has it. But I mean, I look forward to seeing what goes on.
All right, so Michael, to folks who think headphones are headphones, what is different about these versus other premium label like Sony or what have you headphones?
To me, they're awesome sounding headphones, and the biggest thing, the critics that I hear that bash the headphones, it all depends on what style of music you listen to, because that's what they're designed. I mean, Dr. Dre even said himself, the headphones were designed off of the song "In the Club" by 50 Cent. So I mean, it's styled to a subset of people for these type of headphones. So I mean, with the type of music I listen to, they work phenomenally, better than any headphone I've put on. But I mean, it goes back to the style of music you listen to and the person you are.
Yeah, I found that the bass was just thumping in your face. It was awesome. When I listened to it. Go ahead, Alan.
Here's the question, though, Michael. Okay, so they bought these, they bought this company for 3.2 billion. Is it worth 3.2 billion for coming
I think
up with
so.
headphones?
I think so. I think they do have the, the sound patent that was made from scratch. The whatever it is,
Oh,
sound crap they did inside the
so
headphone
there's a patent.
technology.
Okay, that
But
explains.
I mean, it's Beats technology because I mean they've integrated it with laptops. They've had the headphones, and they have many, many different headphones types. And they got the pills now, and I mean, it's. I think it's going to a spot where it's then hit. Yeah. Which is why it's a perfect fit with Apple. I mean, it's perfect. Oh, that would be neat. That would be neat.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I heard people saying, "Oh, they bought Beats for the music service that Beats has," to which just about everyone else said, "The what?"
That's interesting. I mean, I don't think it would hurt them. I mean, I think it could only help them. 'Cause, I mean, I don't think. I mean, iTunes is still, yeah, it might be the number one, buying and purchasing. But I mean, I can't stand iTunes. I really can't. But I mean, I see it as it's a perfect fit, perfect mesh, and they can actually make money. They can integrate Beats technology into all the laptops, or the next thing that the iMac ships with, or something. I don't know.
I think they just did it so they can get money from an Android phone.
How?
HTC has it in their Android phone.
But haven't they stopped it lately? Cause yeah, they stopped it last couple versions of phones that come out from HTC. They used to do Beats technology. HP does Beats technology a lot. So we'll see.
All right, so there we go. And if you've ever been a fan of 50 Cent, look at his it's on YouTube. Look at his appearance. I think it was on CNBC, because he's actually a prominent stock investor. And my introduction to him was, of course, go shorty, it's your birthday, and he was on, I think it was CNBC, and I was extraordinarily impressed with him. He was sitting there in a suit and tie talking about stocks, and he had serious games. So I would, pardon the pun there, but check out that video on YouTube with him discussing, the financial markets and stocks and stuff. He's no joke. 50 Cent is a fascinating character, and kudos to him. Okay, so there's an article by a guy I know, Ron Fournier. He used to be the DC bureau chief for the Associated Press. Now he's the editor-in-chief of National Review, and he wrote this thing. It's really good, and I like Ron. I know him, and this one is pretty good. It's a pretty good piece. And so the basic question is this: net neutrality. We saw the deal with Amazon entering into an agreement to up their, I don't know what the term is, peering agreement, whatever the hell you want to call it. Basically, they were paying Comcast to get faster access to their subscribers, and I don't understand all the
Netflix.
technology.
It was Netflix.
Okay, Netflix paying Comcast. So I don't know all the technology there. What I'm guessing is that the impetus for this all of a sudden is that Netflix and Amazon Prime are putting everyone's trying to beat the other guy with new technology. So they're doing an impetus on 4K. And in order to deliver 4K, you need X amount of bandwidth. And so I think that is what forced their hand. I haven't read that anywhere, but I'm just speculating there. I'm guessing that their desire, because I think either Amazon or Netflix is going to release Breaking Bad in 4K. That was just in the news today. So I'm guessing that that's the impetus here. But what Ron suggests is that this could be a serious moment along the Standard Oil versus the citizens versus the oligarchies moment. So it's a combination of this could be a big deal where people will finally revolt because internet has been dumbed down and suppressed for the masses by the nature of that last mile. You kind of need to be a monopoly to make it profitable. And with laws in certain states that prevent a municipality from being able to offer an inexpensive thing as a utility. The laws do not think of the internet in the same way that we think of water and electricity as a utility. And perhaps we should. And the other argument here is that where is the outrage? We saw with SOPA, a fairly obscure law that was much more difficult to understand than it was portrayed, get a tremendous amount of publicity, and a big movement occurred, and it was shut down. But in this case, it's actually a more impactful thing in some respects. I doubt 10% of the American public would even know what net neutrality actually means. And there doesn't seem to be a sense of outrage. If you went to your mom or your aunt or your typical Facebook user and you said, what do you think about net neutrality? There would not be the sense of outrage or even cognizance of what it is. So what do you guys think? Are we going to see something?
Well, one of the points of this story was that in the previous Gilded Age, it's not that it's not that there was a sudden populist uprising of people suddenly realizing they were getting screwed over by the railroad barons. It was people realized this because of a concerted effort by a number of individuals to raise their awareness of it. And I think we are just beginning to see that happening today when companies like Microsoft and Google and Amazon all come together and say, hey, the FCC is trying to screw up net neutrality. So I'm not sure the battle is a populist battle yet. Right now it's being fought amongst the big guys, with a lot of the small guys, i.e. us, kind of standing back going, yeah, you get them. So the article kind of asks, what will it take to make a populist uprising? And it will take people writing about the story and educating the consumers about the story until they understand why it is that Comcast and AT&T and Verizon are trying to screw us over and how they're doing so.
I think it's an excellent piece. I recommend everyone read it. If you don't read anything else that we've linked to today, I recommend you read this because it is kind of a wake-up call that we all know, but like I don't see this sense of outrage. Michael, how many people do you think that you meet in everyday life would even know what net neutrality is? And where is this sense of outrage that should exist?
Dan, hang on. I need to cut you off there. Because I could pull up any 10 stories from the news today, and I don't just mean the tech news today, I mean the news, actually, from the news 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I could have pulled up 10 stories, and I would say 9 out of 10 Americans, or more, would not know anything about any of those 10 stories.
I mean, I guess it's your definition of no. I mean, how many of us could point Ukraine out on a map?
Probably next to none. How many of them?
How many could point out the Indian Ocean where the plane is allegedly underwater? I mean, I'm just saying that this is actually something that impacts you. For most folks, the stability of Ukraine is not something that impacts us directly. whoever's
and yet
in
you were
charge there,
obsessing-
it doesn't.
You were obsessing about a certain airplane hunt, and yet it didn't direct you. You know, it didn't affect you directly.
Correct. But in this case, this does impact you.
And you know, the
Because
Ukraine
my
situation
fear
does
is-
impact us
my
in a
fear-
lot of ways.
Here's why it impacts you. We get frustrated if a big box store or whatever store is selling stuff in your neighborhood and another store is not allowed to buy real estate there. So if you want to carry that analogy forward,
And Lord knows we don't.
if Amazon or Netflix can afford to buy off Comcast to actually be able to deliver the services that you're already paying for, and to get an extra revenue stream, then if you come along, because I mean, this show is called Google Plus Week, so there were 2 kids in college who came up with a better search engine, and they were able to compete with Yahoo, the big boys, and they eventually beat them. So if you're Netflix, you can afford to do that, but if you're the next guy to come along, you don't have the resources to pay Comcast to get coverage. Does it mean that your website is going to be like a cable TV channel where you're going to have to pay to get carriage on that cable TV system, the way Fox News did when they first started out? Is that what the internet's going to come to? Because that's exactly what it sounds like to me. It's pay to play. If you want to reach the consumers in this area, you'll pay the thing, because Netflix pays them. Why won't you? And then how can, the next 2 college kids in a dorm somewhere compete? That's the fear. That's why this impacts everybody. It's innovation stifling. It's an absolute disaster. Nobody seems to understand it or give a damn. That's my 2 cents.
And yet, no, never mind. Because I agree with you. I don't feel like throwing straw men in your face right now. It is an issue, and it is a problem. But there are a lot of issues and problems, and quite honestly, most people don't care about any of them.
I'm just surprised that
which
the
is why. And Dan, here's the thing. To go back to the article, they pointed out that we had similar issues back in the Gilded Era, when we had the robber barons, we had the monopolists, and they were operating without impunity. With impunity, they were operating without any problem.
With impunity.
Until there were good, hard-hitting reporters who came out and hard-hitting reporters, hard-hitting authors who came out and educated the public on the issues. So I'm going to ask you, as a newspaperman, where are those reporters today?
Well, one of them is running the National Review, and this will probably prompt me to write something as well. But it's a complicated issue to explain to people. This gets to the issue like when we talked about trying to impanel a juror who's competent to learn about patent law in 3 weeks so that they can try a billion-dollar case or multi-billion-dollar case, which they're completely unqualified to hear, let alone decide. So I'm just shocked that SOPA and PIPA or PIPA, whatever, the Senate version, that got so much traction. And even though people were supporting it, I saw a lot of people supporting the movement to stop it. A lot of people had no clue what the hell it actually was. And my congressman co-authored it, so I know about that bill. But I'm surprised that, where is the outrage on net neutrality? Nobody seems to understand or care. I'm surprised that there's not a bigger movement to prevent websites having to become
You got to remember also, SOPA and PIPA, there were a lot of people in the tech community yelling about it and screaming about it for a long time before it suddenly got populist backing. It doesn't surprise me that we're seeing the same thing with net neutrality. Those of us who understand it and know it are doing a lot of yelling and screaming right now. And maybe at some point the rest of the public will catch on and we'll smack this down.
Yeah, I think the way to frame it would be the era of free website browsing is over, and the Comcast and others are going to make you pay to see websites, because I think that's fairly accurate. Maybe not sexy; it'd have to be improved on, but that's the way I would do it. Pay to play argument. If you like your website, get ready to fork over some cash to see it, because that's what's going to happen. Comment from Joshua Hughes, Alan.
Yeah. His comment is to remember that if the internet somehow became a stifling dystopia, everyone would just go start a different internet. I think that's a nice theory. I think that the reality is that if it became a stifling dystopia, a bunch of people would go start 5 different internets that would never talk to each other, and that would all collapse because they just don't have enough support individually.
It's all about getting a wire to somebody's house in our current paradigm, right? I mean, that may change, because I know Sprint's talking about technology. They could deliver, I think, like 400 megabits to your house wirelessly. That's obviously exciting and interesting. But right now, just like if your town has a Sam's Club or a Costco, it likely doesn't have the other one. The first one that comes in there is the incumbent, unless you're in a big city. But that happened in Winchester. Sam's Club announced they were going to build, and then Costco built a store, and then Sam's Club's, they pulled out and said that it's not worth it, because the businesses sign up. That's where we make our money. And once somebody comes in there and gets all the subscribers or members, then it's not worth it for another one to come in. There's no money to be made, because they make all their money in the subscription fees. And if you have a cable company, Verizon Fios worked because they already had copper or Fios or fiber to the house anyway, or would adopt it, but they already had a relationship for the last mile. But if you already have a cable company, whatever it is, the odds of another cable company coming in and laying all that infrastructure in, here we go, another freaking, I'm getting attacked. The odds of another company coming in and laying that last mile are slim to none, because it just doesn't make any sense. That's why it should be viewed as a public utility or a private utility, whatever you want to call it, as opposed to just some disposable income random thing you want to buy if you want to buy it. So there's that. Okay, so next up, this Amazon review story. We've seen these periodically, Alan, over the last couple of years. We've been doing the show 3 years, whatever. Bottom line is, not trying the case, but the bottom line is, you can't just throw crap out there on the internet with impunity. You have to be as responsible when you post something publicly on Yelp or Amazon as you would if you were writing a letter to the editor for a newspaper. I don't think people understand that. I think people get angry and frustrated. Maybe they have a rude person they're dealing with, and so they write something, and you're responsible for your online stuff just as much as you would be if you had written a letter to the editor or put a sign in your front yard. So what are your thoughts on this, Alan?
I don't know. I've trying to get some of it. Part of it is it isn't clear how much that he was saying in the first place was true, which, at least in the U.S., is a good defense against libel. The broad issue, though, is in a lot of cases, writing a negative review can subject you to suits whether or not what you're writing is true. And in some cases, your license terms for using the product prohibit you from writing negative reviews. And that's been coming up in a couple of cases recently as well. So, I don't know, my broad opinion of this case is that there's insufficient public information about whether this is correct or not. I mean, nobody's
we don't
actually
want to
saying
try the
whether he
case,
lied
but
or
let me
told the truth.
let me ask you about this, Alan. Obviously, neither one of us, none of the panel wants to try this case on this show because the court will do that. But the bottom line is, if you post something on Amazon or Yelp, it has weight, and you can impact that business, and you better be sure that it's accurate and fair, and you don't have malice, and that it's true to the best of your knowledge. Because otherwise, you could get sued because you could impact that business negatively, and they could go after you. Not most businesses wouldn't because it would just draw more attention to it, right? The Streisand effect. But Alan brings up the other point of these terms of service agreements, where if you, I think it was a website where if you engage socially with whatever company in any way online, their terms of service says you are not allowed to write any kind of negative review. Do you think that is just a matter of contract, or do you think that would be thrown out were it to get a serious court challenge?
I think if it were to get a serious court challenge, it would be considered an unreasonable contract term. For the simple reason that you cannot change a person's opinion nor how they express their opinion through a contractual agreement. Oh, I don't know. I guess you can. I don't know. I think it would be considered a. I don't know. I don't have the words for it tonight about what I think it is, but I think the court would throw it out as BS. See, sometimes courts, actually know what the hell they're doing. I don't think the Oracle court was, but that's another. Cadeas, what do you think? Well, at the very least, let's be honest here. I mean, that's at least a good thing in the U.S. is that libel, one of the defenses against libel, slander and libel, is that what you were saying is true.
That's an absolute defense, 100%.
That's let's be clear, though. That's only a defense in the U.S. In Great Britain, for example, it is not a defense. So you can libel somebody by telling the absolute truth about them in the UK, which I think is hogwash, but that's the law there. So at the very least, if this guy can demonstrate that it was true, or at the very least, to the best of his knowledge, that it was true, that seems like a reasonable defense against libel in his case.
Yeah, the very First Amendment to our Constitution says the right to freedom of speech shall not be infringed.
No, that's not what it says, Dan.
Okay, what does it say, Alan?
It says Congress shall make no law.
Well, what it says literally and the way it's been interpreted are two different things, and the latter carries more weight, right? Because that's what the Supreme Court has.
Right, but the Supreme
They've
Court
come up with
has
all sorts of
multiple
things, like the right to privacy, the right, that are not, that they've interpreted that it means. Well, it was the very First Amendment. The idea you could sit and freedom of speech exists to protect unpopular speech, and you have a right to say if the pizza sucks at this place, it sucks. You have a right to say that. In my opinion, this pizza sucks. That's freedom of speech. Go ahead, Alan.
No, go ahead,
Cadeas. That's not.
You have a right to say, Pam, you have a right to say, I don't like the pizza here. You don't have a right to say there are rats in the place if there aren't, right?
No, but freedom of speech is simply you have the right to speak out against the government. That's all it says. It doesn't say that, you have the right to, disparage another person. What you have the right to do is to speak out against the government. That's what the freedom of speech law was created for, and that's the specific wording in the Constitution.
You can talk about a person as long as it's not defamation, as long as it's not untrue.
But,
The actual-
that's not,
okay,
but
here
that's
it
not
is.
necessary. That's not covered under freedom of speech.
No,
that's covered
it's
under something else.
Here's
Dan.
what it says. Here's what it says. Congress shall make
Okay.
no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So the phrase about speech is abridging the freedom of speech. It's not just against the government. It's to say that I found that this waiter was rude, or I don't like the way,
So Dan,
you know.
no, never mind. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. Yes, I am. Okay. No,
Go
I'm not.
ahead.
So, but again, it boils down to the Congress shall make no law. What it doesn't say is that no contract may deny a person freedom of speech. That's the issue here. Now, if we were to take what is written there literally, then we would say that there is no such thing as libel law because it's not possible to libel somebody.
But this has been interpreted broadly. For example, we just had a story in our paper about some group that was held a demonstration. They would say for conventional marriage, and others would say, you know, homophobic, whatever you want to call it. But they had a big demonstration at a public school.
At a public school? Sorry, public government.
Exactly. They brought up the issue of it's an age old thing that's happened in every community when you have some group that comes in there and someone finds it offensive, and they're like, why do they have the right to do this? And it's like, well, if you lease this grounds out, then if you lease these grounds out, you have to lease them to everybody without, you know.
But again, Dan,
and that's public. And in your private establishment, for example, but even, I mean, you could, if you operate a public conveyance, then they've determined that you can't discriminate.
But
if it's open to the public.
But they've upheld the restaurant's right to refuse service to anyone for any reason. So why you know, that's a public conveyance. You're allowed to go into the restaurant. There's no restrictions on going into the restaurant. So, you know, why would it be any different? If someone's screaming something about your restaurant while, you know, you're trying to serve patrons or whatever, why should a business have to deal with that? Freedom of speech doesn't mean holding everyone hostage inside the establishment, right? Go stand out on the corner and
do we have
scream.
the right in our own forum, which is this program? I criticized Comcast tonight. Do I have the right to do that, or should Comcast should I be wary of doing so because of threat of a lawsuit from Comcast that would silence me and muzzle me, and then no one ever says anything bad about Comcast, and they just proceed and dominate the world, and we all have, you know, 30 down and 10 up in 2025.
Did you say Comcast?
Yeah.
Yes, that is our provider, and I don't like their email. There you go.
But Sheila, what if in the terms of your contract with Comcast, it said that you may not post any message or make any statement using Comcast services that are against Comcast corporate interest?
As in like being on Google Plus because they're not a Comcast entity?
No, as in making that statement that you did a few seconds ago that their email sucks.
Well, just put it bluntly, yes, it sucks. Their spam filters are not good,
But
and I
what
don't
if,
care.
But Sheila, what if in their terms of service they had a statement saying you're not allowed to make any statement not in Comcast's interest using Comcast network?
What if they said you are allowed to speed on the highway? I mean, If it goes against another law, I mean, it holds no weight in court.
What law does this go against, though?
Of course, there are lots, terms of service. There's lots of terms of service I don't read because I would have to read the whole flippin' 12 books of dictionaries that are this thick, to get through it.
It should be if it's important, something like taking away your First Amendment freedoms, then there should be a red box. There are cases where you can have your First Amendment rights taken away. For example, in some cases, you're not allowed, if you're an inmate, you're not allowed all the First Amendment freedoms that you would ordinarily have. Maybe you're not allowed to profit from your crime. You can't write a book about it, for example.
An NDA.
If you a non-disclosure agreement, for example. Another example would be if you agree to settle a lawsuit, it might be on the condition that you agree not to disclose the terms of the settlement. So there are occasions where you are legitimately, legally, and the courts have upheld that you can give up your right to freedom of expression about a topic under certain conditions. But the idea that they could sneak this into some 17-page terms of service agreement that no one reads, I mean, it just doesn't pass the smell test, and I can't see that surviving a court challenge. But the bottom line is that this guy, if his stuff is bogus, he's likely to get sued and not prevail. So you can't, if you have a negative experience at a restaurant, you can't just trash them unless you have the facts at your side. That the rules, it's kind of the maturation of online compared to what the standards we expect in print. You're responsible for what you say, and you have to be able to back it up, or you can be sued, because what you say now in this day and age can have a negative impact, a significant detrimental impact in monetary sense against the entity which you are criticizing. But that right should not be taken away. But with right comes responsibility, and if you say something, you're responsible for what you've said, and you could be held liable if what you said can be proven to be not true, and if you had malice. And again, we're not trying this case on this show. We don't know. I just want to bring up the issue.
You need to be able to back up what you say.
Absolutely. Just do unto others as you'd have others do unto you, and say the truth. And the addendum to that is make sure you can prove that. So the second story here, which is kind of related, and I apologize. I said in the notes, but I want to apologize for directing folks to a link that is so spam-filled, the Washington Times.
So you're the one that added all of these.
Yeah, I did. So the next one is, this is about Drudge linked to this, but it could be applied to a liberal site like Daily Kos or whatever, or a conservative site. And I just thought it was an interesting conversation. The FEC, the Federal Elections Commission chair, has warned that conservative media like Drudge Report and Sean Hannity, his radio program, could face regulation, like PACs. The argument is that if you have a site or a radio show that is extremely partisan, and again, I'm not highlighting this because he was picking on right-wingers. This could go either way. That's what piqued my interest, because I'm a First Amendment guy. You could have an extremely liberal site or extremely right-wing site, and if you're advocating a certain point of view, like it could be a newspaper, a magazine that's dedicated to environmental issues, or on the right side, Christian values or whatever it is, then if you're advocating certain viewpoints, and you could be viewed in the context of being partisan because you typically would highlight Republicans on one side or Democrats on the other side, the FEC chairman is warning that they might face regulation. And I think that would be thrown out. I think that that's a bad idea. I think that our nation has a very, very long history of partisan news outlets. I think that's a good thing. I'm glad that there is a very healthy and prosperous Fox News channel and on the right, and a very not so prosperous but healthy MSNBC on the left, and that they duke it out. I think that's a good thing. And folks can watch CNN if they want to learn about, the latest in the hunt for the Malaysian airplane, or they can, learn about Benghazi on MSNBC, or they can learn about, whatever or on Fox News Channel or whatever MSNBC is talking about. I think we want a wide variety of views, and it's not a new concept that we have partisan news sources. If you've studied Hearst or any of these guys, they've gotten us into wars in the past. So this is not new. I don't know where this is coming from. Any thoughts on this at all? On whether we should regulate a partisan news outlet as though they're supporting a candidate in the same way that a PAC would? I think that's insane. So nobody.
I'm not going to weigh in on it.
So everyone agrees with me. I'm right again. All right. So, and the last thing I just think this is cool. This was China is. The article was funny. They said it's about a train. They want to do a high-speed rail project from Beijing through Siberia, through an undersea tunnel. So already, I'm so not going to be the first person to ride this train, right? And then to Alaska, then to Canada, and then they said to the U.S. Like Alaska's not in the U.S. But I just think that's kind of interesting. I don't know what the cost would be compared to a plane ticket or what the time length would be. But Asia has a pretty good track record of these bullet trains or high-speed rail trains. Any thoughts on this? I don't know if Cadeas is still with us or not, but I know that it'd be kind of cool if you could take a train from New York to Beijing. That'd be kind of weird and awesome at the same time. What do you think? Alan, would you go to Beijing and have a winter cottage or summer cottage or what have you?
I would definitely take the train to Beijing. That sounds delightful, actually.
Especially knowing you're going through Siberia and underwater, under the ocean.
Yeah, there are a couple of problems with that. The article says that there are approximately 200 kilometers of the tunnel that would be underwater. It would be, a fairly standard underwater train tunnel. And by fairly standard, we mean nobody's ever done one this long before. The longest metro tunnel currently in existence, and the longest railway tunnel, is 60 kilometers by China in the Guangzhou Metro Line number 3, according to Wikipedia. Beijing Subway Line number 10 has one that's 57 kilometers long. So, yeah, the channel under the English Channel is only 50 kilometers long. This is 4 times the length of that they're proposing. I don't think so. I'm sorry. I don't think they can pull it off.
Has anything happened to the Hyperloop concept? Is anyone that we know of exploring that? This is Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla.
Yeah, a few
and
people
PayPal.
are. So far, it's still being laughed at largely.
Do you think it'll happen? Do you think it's
no?
You don't. You think it's bogus, or you think it's?
I think it's got some technological challenges to it that are not going to be overcome.
I was expecting, in a couple of years to be zipping off to LA in an hour, so that's not going to happen. Okay. All right. So these last topics were great. All right. Anything else? Sheila Dubois, how was your Google Plus week?
Oh, okay. My Google Plus week. I've been selected to help moderate in the landscape photography community. Does that help?
Awesome.
Yeah. Margaret Tompkins and Jay Patel and a bunch of other folks run the thing, and I get to help. Okay, that's Google Plus, and then my mouth hurts like heck. Dental work. Google Plus week. No.
Yeah, we know sometimes, using Google Plus can be painful, and other times it's like pulling
Especially when
teeth.
they don't have a good enough internet connection in the dental office chair, okay? I can't check my Google Plus stuff.
You're under the dentist knife and you're sitting there on your social media.
Mm-hmm. Trying to.
I'll tell you what, I'm so traumatized when I'm in the dentist chair that the last thing I'm worried about is the quality of their Wi-Fi connection. But
Laughing gas. That's all I can say. That's all
probably the
I
first
can
time you've ever been high.
No. I've been high on laughing gas before, and I literally giggled out the door with my mother. This time, I didn't get that satisfaction. No laughing matter here.
Well, you probably win the worst Google Plus Week award if you were at the dentist this week. Pam Adger in Menifee, California. How was your week?
My week was completely uneventful. I didn't. Nothing exciting. Nothing exciting happened.
Actually, that can be exciting. That you life is kind of like, phew. You can breathe. There you go.
In other words, there's nothing she'll tell us on the program.
Absolutely not.
Michael Banks in Augusta, Georgia. How was your Google Plus week, sir?
It was pretty, uneventful as well. But I still go to Google Plus for like my intelligent discussion. I want to put it out there because right now, talking about Netflix.
Oh man, are you barking up the wrong tree?
Netflix increasing their price $1 for new subscribers. And the ones currently there are grandfathered in for the next 2 years. So I mean, I was given a debate. Should I look into Hulu Plus or, the cable cutters. The debate on what service to go to. So having a great discussion on that. That's my Google Plus week.
You don't think it's still a good value?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, even if it was twice the price or 3 times the price.
Now you're losing me.
What about Amazon Prime? Because they went through the same thing. They upped their price.
Well, I don't know. I locked in the extra year for Amazon, so I don't know. Once it hits me, I'm gonna reevaluate.
House of Cards alone isn't enough to keep you?
But I mean, if House of Cards came out twice a year, maybe. House of Cards only once a year.
Because like HBO, there's some great stuff there that I would love to watch, but I'm not going to... I have Comcast Business, and I would have to spend $85 a month.
They just recently went to Amazon, so I mean... I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend $85 a month plus HBO just to get HBO, right? If I could spend like $10, $15, I'd do it, but I've got to buy all this crap that I don't want.
Baby steps.
Absolutely. I'm guessing Cadeas is still gone. So I will skip him. If he shows up, then we'll go back to him. Alan Furstenberg, how was your Google Plus week, sir?
How was my Google Plus week? I don't know. It seemed kind of dull, kind of quiet. Yeah, kind of like Pam, nothing much happened, really. It was just kind of, quiet. No, who am I kidding? It was a freaking awesome week. Kick-ass week. It was a great week.
Tell us about a project you've been working on with Mr. Jason Salas in Guam. And
as we talked about on this show,
progress of that.
As we talked about on this show last week, we had the cover for our book we released, and this week we released the book. So our book is now on sale, Designing and Developing for Google Glass. It's been just amazing watching the people who we've worked with, who we've been talking with for the past year almost, come out and support the book and buy the book and talk about the book. So that's all been just absolutely amazing. And for me, it was doubly special since yesterday marked my first anniversary with Google Glass. So I've had Glass now just over a year. So to see the book coming out the same week that happened was just incredible for me. The whole thing has been truly an experience.
I'll give my 2 cents because I'm helping copy edit the book now, and I do not have Glass. I'm not a Glass explorer. Alan and Jason, of course, are, and Alan is the very first person to be recognized as a developer expert for Glass, and I'm very proud of him because he's my good friend. I'm very proud of him for that, and I can tell you that the book is designed. I expected an intricate, looking at C code or assembler code or something, and it's not that, at least initially. I've gone through the first 2 or 3 chapters out of, I think, about 15 or 17. Alan, how many is it?
I believe we're at 17 chapters, yes.
Okay, so I'm like on page 50 out of 330 or something. So I'm enough chunk in there. And it's really interesting, and it talks about the philosophy, why this is a game changer. It's different. It's a good book. Even if you're not a developer, it's a good book, and I'm enjoying it, and that's why I'm doing it. Because if it was mind-numbingly boring to me, then I wouldn't do it, right? But I'm going through it piecemeal, and I'm actually really enjoying the book. It's Go ahead, Alan. You wanted to follow up on that?
Well, we're glad that you're enjoying it in that way, because one of the things that we tried to do is not just talk about, the history of Glass and how it evolved, or, and we certainly didn't want to just present a ton of code saying, here, plug in this code and run it and it'll work. What we really wanted to do was help people understand how Glass is different, why Glass is different, how, when you're talking about Glass and when you're building your apps and when you're designing apps, even if you're just some guy with a concept, how to think about these concepts differently, how to think about Glass differently. That was the original title, was, Think in Glass. Just get people thinking differently about this. And it's pleasing to hear you say that and a lot of other people saying this, because it means that we succeeded in that task. It means that we were able to put down in print a lot of what we had been talking about, and that's not easy. And I hope people understand that what this book is talking about, it isn't talking about how to write code. Writing code is easy. Writing a good piece of software, designing it, developing it, and capturing the essence of what it needs to do, that's hard. Writing code, that's easy.
It's almost like if we had always just had clocks on the wall, and then someone at some point invented the first timepiece you could put on your wrist. So you had a watch. And it's a little different. The way you use a wristwatch is different from the way you look at a clock on the wall. So they preface this in the book a lot about how Glass is different, and you don't want, you can't have your normal, you don't want excessive notifications, and you have to understand how it works and the way that people expect things to work in Glass. You don't want to piss them off. You want to be contributing to, not distracting from the experience. It's really interesting, and things I hadn't thought of before, and it actually made me think, well, maybe Glass isn't so bad after all. Reading this, so
gee, Dan, that's high praise coming from you.
Yeah, so even though it's like 7 of 9, this thing, the Borg.
Well, one of the things I hope we also talked about in there is, why does it have this particular look that it does?
Exactly, and you went through different iterations of it. It was fascinating, and stuff I didn't know, like the incredible technology, like the heat, the way that it's designed to escape on the exterior, not the interior, so it doesn't get hot. just all kinds of crazy stuff that I would never have thought of. That it was really, and as you point out, this is not a new concept of a wearable technology or that sort of thing, but they've really sort of looked at everything out there and put it all together without Oracle's API in this case. And they've really done sort of a best of wearable technology device. So it's really exciting to see. And they can get the book where?
You can get it at shop.o'reilly, OREILLY.com, or if you go to prisoner.com/glass, I have a link to the book from my page.
And it's good. It'll be better after my copy edits. But
well, that's one of the, that's one of the neat things that we're able to do with O'Reilly, is that we're able to update the book as it goes along. It's an ebook. We'll be putting out updates every week or every couple of weeks, up until we finally go to press. At which point the book will be nailed down in its current form.
And it's kind of neat because in the present form, you're kind of like an early purchaser, so you're getting it. It's like a behind the scenes view. Like there's one part in there where it says, "Jason, we have to update the page numbers here." I mean, it's really in a raw form, but you still get the final version included, right? So you're buying it now, but every major revision, like if you and Jason go through and create like a major update in the editing, and then you put it out there, and then I think the readers can contribute suggestions or that sort of thing.
We're very happy to take comments and feedback from people about what you feel is missing, what's lacking, what needs clarification. We're in the same way that Glass it turned to its explorers to help them understand how Glass was going to be used. We're also happy to turn to our readers and say, hey, what do you think you need to learn more about? What can we do better? And it's significantly cheaper than what Google is charging its explorers. So you're getting a real deal on this.
Yeah, it's cool. So I wholeheartedly endorse Alan. You owe me $5. I wholeheartedly endorse Alan's book. And
you
Jason,
got your book at a 50% discount.
I did.
It was already marked down 20% because it was an early release.
Well, the list price is $40, so I got it for $20. So that $40 is a discount?
$40 is a discount because it's an early release.
Wow. I see why O'Reilly's probably got a fancy car. But it's worth it. I mean, it's great. I would have spent $100. It's Alan's book. I
doubt you would have spent $100 on my book.
You'd be surprised. Folks, we have two programs. One is called Our Android Week, and that airs every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We talk about all things Android. There are no standout topics. Normally we talk about what's coming up, but we'll talk about there will be some awesome stuff. I'm going to be on the Virginia News Network or Virginia. Oh my God. I'll be on the radio in Roanoke, Lynchburg, Virginia, and it's like a chain of stations, but it's the Virginia Talk Network, I think. NBC thing. And that's tomorrow at just after 11 a.m. Eastern time if you're in Virginia. If you're in Central Virginia, you can catch that. I'll be talking about the big story of the week. So it'll be like a national, it won't be tech, it'll be like a news story. So anyway, thanks for watching so much. This program, Google Plus Week, is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. When I have my ducks in a row. And we appreciate you watching very much. And we look forward to your comments and all your stuff. It's awesome. That's why we do it. We do it for you because it's so much fun to interact with you on this wonderful network we call Google Plus. So thank you so much, and we will catch you next time. Until then, have a great Google Plus Week.